Is weird, odd, strange, or just plain bizarre is really your cup of tea? Then, the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast will give you that fix. Can't believe it? Well, listen for yourself as we deliver the strangest news you definitely won't find on CNN or Fox. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Weird News Podcast.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the GSMC Weird News Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. We are here, of course, to talk about some of the stranger news stories in the world. The regular news, as I keep saying, is strange enough, but we need stories that can make us smile or groan or roll our eyes in positive ways and not just sad eye-rolling kind of ways or sad tear-filled kind of ways. I don't know. We need some weird news in our lives. So that is what I am here to attempt to give you. And our first weird news story comes from actually earlier in August, and it tells the story of a fairly unique attempt to escape prison. People have come up with all kinds of plans over the years to try to escape from prison. This one is, I don't know if it's unique, but it's maybe less common than one might expect. And that is that a Brazilian drug trafficker tried to escape prison disguised as his daughter. Okay. When visiting hours ended at a prison outside Rio de Janeiro, a young woman made her way toward the exit before guards took a second look and pulled her aside. Turns out she wasn't a woman at all, but a well-known male drug trafficker. Clavino de Silva was sentenced to 73 years and 10 months. 73 years and 10 months. Wow. In prison, because that extra 2 months of your 74th year, that really makes a difference. But anyway, De Silva's escape plan, prison authorities told local media, was to have his 19-year-old daughter visit the prison. The prison is known as Bangu 3. And then he would disguise himself as her and then leave her behind in his place. That's terrible. I mean, I was wondering how that there were going to be one daughter that comes in and two daughters that leave. You're going to leave her in your place? Well, I don't know. I guess I don't know. It might have worked, but authorities say the quote-unquote woman's air of nervousness signaled that something was amiss. A video released by a local lawmaker shows the odd and slightly creepy reveal. First, it shows what might appear to be a young woman with long black hair, wearing glasses and a pink shirt with images of donuts. And I am looking at the picture, and it is an odd disguise. I mean, yeah, at first glance, you would think it was a young woman, but then there's just something off about the picture. So, one of the guards takes off her glasses and lifts off the black wig, revealing a strangely smooth head. And then the person in disguise peels off the pink shirt and bra, revealing a muscular male frame with arm tattoos. Thank goodness it was a male and they didn't just make a young female topless. Then the person grabs what is now clearly a silicone mask. Oh, thank goodness. I was wondering why this young woman looked so very strange. A silicone mask and pulls it over his head. Underneath is a man in his 40s wearing a buzz cut, blinking indignantly. When asked, he says his name. So, wow. The tweet with the video is in Spanish, so I do not know exactly what it says. But yeah, the reveal, definitely interesting. The article says that it was a slightly creepy reveal, and it really is, simply because the silicone mask is a little creepy. Like, it looks like a mannequin face, kind of, which is not usually, the kind of face that you're expecting to see on a 19-year-old who is visiting her father in prison. But De Silva, who is nicknamed, I don't know how to say that, Baixinho, which means shorty. Portuguese is a language that I can't even try to pronounce half the time, but it means shorty, and he was a leader of the Red Command, which the Associated Press calls, quote, one of the most powerful criminal groups in Brazil that controlled drug trafficking in a large part of Rio de Janeiro. It's not clear how much De Silva's daughter actually knew about the plan. The BBC reports that she was questioned by authorities along with 7 other people who recently visited him because they think that's how he got his disguise. That makes sense. 7 different people bring 7 different parts of the disguise. Easier to smuggle in, I would imagine. They suspect that one of them, a pregnant woman who was not searched by the guards, had hidden the wig and glasses used by Silva on herself, the broadcaster reports. De Silva has some experience escaping from prison. According to Globo, he was among a group of at least 30 prisoners who escaped a facility called Instituto Penal Vicente Piragibe in 2013. That time he left prison using the sewer system and was soon caught. Brazil's prisons are notoriously violent. As NPR reported, at least 57 prisoners were killed during a prison riot shortly the week before this article was written, and at least 10 of whom were decapitated. Really? That's where you end the article? Come on, people. You could have given us a follow-up sentence, a follow-up. At any rate, that's depressing. But the weird part of the story is, I guess props for the plan. You had to think through it, and clearly you had to convince 7 people. However, by whatever means, he convinced them to smuggle in parts of the disguise. I mean, again, as I kept saying in the last episode, somebody write this story. This would make a very good television episode, I think, or something. Maybe not a full-blown movie, but yeah, you could definitely film something like this. We'll move from Brazil to India, and a young boy, a 7-year-old boy, had been complaining about having a swollen jaw and a swollen and aching jaw. So surgeons operated after his complaints and found 526 teeth crammed in his mouth. Wow! No wonder he was complaining. And he's 7. Think of how small a 7-year-old's jaw is. The boy had a, quote, well-defined bag-like mass extracted from his jaw, which weighed 7 ounces and contained hundreds of miniature teeth. There's a picture of them all in this, like, weird sort of labyrinthine spiral in the article. Once it was removed, the medical team took 5 hours to meticulously search through and count all of them. It was reminiscent of pearls in an oyster, one doctor said. The hospital statement did not release the child's name. Perfectly reasonable. He was discharged after 3 days. Oh man, I hope they don't, somehow come back, and I hope that he's feeling better. But each tooth, which varied in size from 1 millimeter to 15 millimeters, displayed a crown covered by enamel and a root-like structure, according to the hospital's statement. Though there is no problem in the growth of other teeth in the boy, the growth of molar teeth is permanently affected, and he requires molar implants after turning 16, the New Indian Express reported. The procedure did not require jaw reconstruction. Surgeons said the lesion, known as compound odontoma, may be attributed to genetic or environmental factors. And according to the National Center for Biotechnology Information, odontomas are usually discovered in people during their first 2 decades of life, but can occur at any age. And the hospital asserts that this is the first ever case to be documented worldwide, whereas or so many minute teeth were found in a single individual. That is fascinating. And wow, I'm so glad that the young boy was able to get the surgery and get things taken care of. I can only imagine that he's feeling so very much better, and that molar implants at 16 will seem like not so terrible of a thing to have to do in order to have relief from what he had to be going through. 500 extra teeth, 526 extra teeth crammed inside your... Wow. That's all I have to say. Because all I can say is wow. We're going to go ahead and take our first break of the podcast. And when we come back, we'll be talking about some more weird news stories. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts. Past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. This next story comes to us under the heading of things that you maybe never really thought about being stolen. I mean, stuff gets stolen all the time, and sometimes I think, really? Why did you steal that? I don't know the reason behind it, but this is the theft of all things, shapewear. Women's body shaping faja, F-A-J-A. I don't know if it's faja or faja undergarments. I have never heard of this particular brand of shapewear, but apparently it's popular enough to be stolen. The burglars, according to the article, came prepared. They cut a hole through the concrete roof and shimmied down into the warehouse. They disabled the alarms and they escaped with $2 million worth of shapewear. Okay, again, I am sorry. I know I keep bringing this up, but last episode I wanted there to be short stories. This episode I want things to be filmed into TV shows or, like YouTube videos or something. Somebody please make a Mission Impossible style video of these burglars rappelling down, shimmying it says. I don't know what they shimmied on, but I'm picturing them rappelling like Mission Impossible. The stolen goods consisted of 34,000 pairs of high-end fajas, again, I'm sorry, a Spanx-like undergarment popular in Miami's Hispanic community. So once again, we have returned to Florida. The robbery actually took place last year. It was only made public recently. That's why we're just now giving this story. David Ovalle, a Miami Herald journalist, has been reporting the story from South Florida, and there are several tweets by David. According to his reporting, less than a quarter of the shapewear garments have been returned to Premier International Group, and the recovered garments are mostly unsellable. Well, detectives from Miami-Dade's cargo theft unit noticed black market sellers exchanging garbage bags of fajas and were able to uncover the operation. Still, the burglars behind the estimated $2 million plunder have yet to be found. The reporter says the actual people who went in and broke in and actually did the stealing of the fajas have never been caught or identified. The motion for the theft? Well, the reporter thinks the bizarre crime is the result of a financial calculation. He says the fajas ended up in the black market. So if you're a place that sells fajas and you can get this good Colombian product for only like $20 a pop, as opposed to $50 a pop, and then you can sell it for over $100 while you're making a pretty good return. Fajas are popular in Colombia and much of Latin America. The body-shaping garments are worn to accentuate curves, but also to aid in the recovery from cosmetic procedures like liposuction. The product is also available for men. Maria Luisa Jimenez, owner of Premier International, began selling them back in the early 2000s and became one of Miami's most prominent sellers of the shapewear. Premier International has been hit before. In 2011, burglars lifted 17,000 garments, with the 2018 robbery doubling that haul. Jimenez is reeling from this loss. Yes, this place needs better security. Who would have thought that the shapewear warehouse needed better security? Jimenez is quoted as saying, it was such a blow. You'd never think in a country like this that is so secure, they would break in and steal 95% of your merchandise. Wow. O'Valley, who reports on crime in Miami, seems unfazed by the strange stick-up. That's so Miami, O'Valley says. Even Florida realizes that their state is weird. And I say that, affectionately, because so many weird news stories come from the state of Florida. Who knew? But shapewear. Don't buy black market shapewear, okay? There's got to be a better way to get shapewear. Our next story is we're having a very international episode today. So we've gone from Brazil to India to Florida, but with references to Latin America, references to Colombia, and now we are going to France, to Paris. And this story not only involves France, but it involves a rooster named Maurice. This is rural France. I'm sorry, I said Paris, but I was, rural France. I think France, and then my brain says Paris when it's not really. It's actually Saint-Pierre-d'Oléron, and a loud 4-year-old rooster called Maurice on an island off the French Atlantic shore has pitted a couple of city slickers who bought a second home next door against his owners and stirred a nationwide debate. Oh, Maurice, you are causing trouble. 2 years ago, Jean-Louis Biron started to complain about Maurice's early morning crowing to Maurice's owners, Jackie Fissot and his wife Corinne, who refused to get rid of their beloved fowl. Sure. The cock screeching starts at 4:30 a.m. and keeps up all morning and well into the afternoon, Biron said in an official letter he sent to his neighbors on the island of Oléron in 2017. The row then escalated, and the parties, against the advice of their lawyers and a mediator, went to court. I'm telling myself I am not going to let myself be bullied, Corinne Fissot said about the lawsuit. The countryside should stay as it is, and they should not say we should silence the countryside noises. A hearing on the case took place in July, and a local court in Rochefort, and a decision is expected in September. So it's not clear what the plaintiff wants to achieve with the lawsuit. Biron's lawyer was quoted by Le Monde newspaper as saying he wants to open mediation to clear up the lawsuit. His lawyers could not immediately be reached. Maurice's case underscores a decades-long conflict in France between city dwellers buying summer houses in the countryside without being ready to cope with rural characteristics such as animal noise, odors, or insects. Maurice has raised a broad move of sympathy and support from all over France and beyond. Similar court cases against cows and church bells have been filed in France, but none with the same emotive impact as Maurice the rooster, who has elicited letters of support from as far away as the U.S., here in the U.S. So, oh, Maurice, you noisy little rooster, you're just doing what roosters do. But yeah, if you're not used to it, it can be disturbing. I know that a lot of cities here in the States have ordinances against whether or not you can have chickens and other things inside city limits. This is not inside city limits, though. It sounds like this is out in the country, and to me that seems reasonable, but I don't know the whole extent of the story, and Maurice, you just keep living your best life. You do what you're doing. You do you, Maurice. And on that note, on Maurice's note, we're going to go ahead and take our second break of the podcast. When we come back, obviously more weird news, and let's just see where we're heading in the world then. I don't want to give anything away, so stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Weird News Podcast, and I will be right back.
This is your ultimate stop for everything sports. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Should I say more? From the NFL, MLB, the NBA to MMA, it's all in here. The Golden State Media Concepts Sports Podcast. Listen now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Weird News Podcast. This next story gives us our final D in our alliterative title. This diving refers to scuba diving and a World War II veteran who is 96. The story is from Cypres, so there you go. That's the next stop on our international episode. The 96-year-old veteran celebrated his birthday by breaking his own record as the world's oldest active scuba diver for the third year running, plunging to the depth of the equivalent of a 15-story building to explore a shipwreck off Cyprus. He is, as I said, a World War II veteran. His name is Ray Woolley, and he turned 96 on August 28th. He plunged to a depth of 42.4 meters for 48 minutes. The event organizers said that was the time and the depth. He beat his previous record of 40.6 meters for 44 minutes. It's just unbelievable. I've been diving now for 59 years, and these are the sorts of dives that you remember because there are so many divers with you, Woolley said of the other 47 divers who swam with him. If I can still dive and my buddies are willing to dive with me, I hope I can do it again next year, Woolley told Reuters after the event organized by the Larnaca municipality and the town's tourism board. Woolley, who lives in Cyprus, was a radio operator in World War II. He has successfully broken two previous records he held in 2017 and 2018. He is originally from Port Sunlight in northwest England. Oh, Port Sunlight. That just sounds like a lovely name. I have no idea if Port Sunlight is as lovely as its name. So the Zenobia, a cargo vessel laden with trucks that sank off of Larnaca, in 1980 is a popular dive site. Underwater images showed Woolley and other divers sitting on the hull of the submerged ship as fish and the occasional turtle swam by. A documentary on his life, Life Begins at 90, will be shown at the Bosnia-Herzegovina Film Festival in September. I refuse to accept the fact that I'm getting old, Woolley says in the trailer. Well, good for him. I mean, 96. Most people just hope to make it to 96, but to still be physically and mentally well enough to go scuba diving, that is really impressive. You know, goals, life goals, not just even a bucket list. That's just to be that active at 96. That takes a certain kind of lifestyle and a certain probably genetics and lifestyle and nutrition and exercise and all sorts of things. So good for him. Now we are moving to Prague. I really didn't realize as I was putting these stories together for today's episode how international the episode was, but I like it. We should do more international episodes. So we're going to Prague now. Prague and opera. Opera lovers watched Don Giovanni on a rooftop and in bathtubs. Yeah, so Mozart's Don Giovanni has been a favorite among opera lovers since it premiered in Prague in 1787, but it is unlikely that any have ever watched it on a rooftop in the Czech capital while submerged in a bathtub, a glass of bubbly in hand, till now. I know that other places in the world have very different ideas of nudity than we do here in the States sometimes, but man, I hope they were wearing swimming suits or something. That's just a lot of people naked watching opera. But Prague cafe owner and culture promoter Andrej Kobza arranged this performance, which was delivered by top Czech opera singers, including soloist Adam Plachenka from the Vienna Opera, as the sun set over the historic city center on that evening, which sounds lovely, right? You're on a rooftop, the sun is setting, you're listening to opera. The stunt it's comprised selected arias rather than the entire opera. I guess that would make sense, because if you're in a tub and it starts getting cold, not so fun, unless they found ways like a hot tub to keep the water warm. I don't know. Anyway, the stunt was based around an anagram. Don Giovanni turned into the Czech John Duvany, which means John into the tub. Well, there you go. It seemed a daring step for me because this is something very untraditional, but I like new challenges and to try something that has not been here before, Plachetka said. Kobza said he thought the future lay in presenting culture in more innovative ways. He said Mozart composed and premiered the opera in Prague. I think he is watching us today. He said this while sitting in a tub on the rooftop of the Lucerna Palace, just off of Prague's central Wenceslas Square, that was built by the grandfather of former Czech President Václav Havel. I think things like this will be popular, doing quality events, but shifting the way they are presented. The spectators who sat in their bathtubs in full evening attire, maybe they didn't have, they ended up very wet, but were very happy with the performance as well as the view from the rooftop. And the air temperature was fortunately around 30 degrees Celsius. The water was warm. This was very pleasant and a great performance by the soloists. This is something I will remember, one of the spectators said. Don Giovanni, which tells the story of a sexually promiscuous nobleman whose past finally catches up with him, premiered in Prague, then part of the Austrian Habsburg Empire, on October 29th, 1787. Sitting in full evening wear in a tub on a rooftop. To each his own, or her own, or their own. How do you plan your outfit to make sure? So guys are wearing tuxes, I get that, but you don't want to wear a silk shirt that would be damaged, or women, do you want to wear something heavily beaded? Not really. Think about that getting wet. You don't want to wear something that's going to shrink or something that's going to be see-through. There's so many things to consider when picking out your evening wear to go sit in a bathtub and watch opera. I don't ever think I will probably be sitting in a tub watching opera, but you should never say never. And so in the back of my mind, clearly I should have, I'll just put that in my mental Rolodex of, on the off chance that someday I'm in Prague sitting in a bathtub watching opera in full evening wear, I should have a plan for what that evening wear will be. And on that note, thank you so much for joining me for yet another episode of the GSMC Weird News Podcast. I hope you will join me next time, because there is so much weirdness in the world that we have yet to explore. Thanks, and have a great weekend.